This is Mayur Bardolia, a success coach, author, and facilitator from North Star Angel Coaching and Spiritual Solutions. I feel blessed and fortunate to share tools, ideas, and insights that can positively impact your life. Welcome to the video. Let me start with something that might shift how you see yourself entirely. You are a powerful, energetic being. You have everything inside you right now to create more love, better relationships, better health, and better financial situations. Every resource you need to make that external reality real already exists within you. So why isn't it showing up yet? Here's the honest answer. You have likely been misusing the resources you already have. One of the biggest ones you have been misusing is your attention. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through what's actually happening when you place your attention on things. Why most of us have completely lost control of where our attention goes. And 3 practical keys to start taking back your control over your attention. Because once you understand how it works, everything starts to look very different. So let me begin with this. Attention. Now, I was sitting with this topic this morning before filming, and I kept coming back to this one idea. Your awareness is your magic wand. There's a brilliant author called Florence Scovel Shinn who said, your word is your wand. Your word is your wand. And I love that. But I would take it one step further and say, your awareness is your wand. Because whatever you're casting your awareness at, whether that's in your mind or in the world around you, that thing intensifies. It grows. It starts becoming more of your experience. Think of it like a radio tuner. Your awareness is the dial of the radio. And whatever frequency you tune into, that's the station you get. You cannot hear the jazz station while you're tuning into news station. You can only receive what you actually dialed into. And imagine you're holding a magnifying glass on a sunny day. You've probably seen that happens when you hold it just right over a dry leaf or any paper. The sun's energy was always there, spread out everywhere, doing nothing in particular, but the moment you concentrate it through that lens and hold it steady on one spot, something starts to happen. That leaf warms up, then it smokes, then it catches fire. The energy was always there. The possibilities were always there, but scattered, unfocused attention produces nothing. It just warms the surface a little and moves on. But it's when you concentrate your awareness, when you hold it steady on something long enough, that things actually start to ignite. And here is the part most people miss. That magnifying glass doesn't care what you're pointing it at. It will burn the thing you want just as readily as the thing you don't want. Point it at your goals, great things start happening. But if you point it at your fears and your problems, and well, those start burning brighter too. Your attention works exactly the same way. Whatever you're consistently placing your attention on, that is what starts to grow, show up, and eventually take up space in your life. The good stuff and the bad stuff. The stuff you keep worrying about at 2 in the morning or 3 in the morning, all of it. And most of us have absolutely no idea where we are actually pointing that lens. Now, imagine all around you, there are hundreds of possible experiences available. Hundreds of. You look at it, right? There are many experiences or possibilities around you. Better income, loving relationship, improved health, creative work you enjoy. All of this exists as possibilities, but you can only tune into the ones your awareness is. And this awareness is pointed specifically at whatever you're consistently dialed into. Those are the experiences that get louder, clearer, and eventually show up in your physical reality. You cannot experience anything that is outside of what you're currently tuned into. And that's really important thing to sit with. Now, let me explain the next concept. Where are you pointing your lens? Where are you pointing your lens? And here I'm talking about the magnifying glass I was talking about earlier on. Okay, so let me explain why this matters more than most people realize. Let me explain the deeper reason why this is true. Because I don't just want you to take my word for it. You are not just this physical body. You are not just the thoughts bouncing around in your head. You can actually observe the fact that you are thinking a thought, which means you are not thought. You can observe the fact that you have a physical body, which means you are not the body either. You are the awareness of those things. The observer, that I'm awareness, that is your essence. That is the part of you that is pure conscious energy, a fractal of source energy. And that life-giving force is flowing through you at every single moment. You have a life force. So when you direct that energy at a possibility or potential, you are literally giving life to it. You are the source of energy that animates whatever you focus on. Think of it like a water and seeds. A seed sitting in dry soil does nothing. But the moment water hits it, something starts happening. Something activates. And that is your awareness, is the water. And whatever you are consistently watering, that's what grows. But now in quantum physics, there's something called the observer effect. The observer effect. Let me write it down for you. Scientists found that subatomic particles actually behave differently when they are being observed. You can watch some of the videos about this on YouTube. The act of watching changes the outcome. The observer effect showed that subatomic particles are actually influenced by the conscious observer watching them. Their behavior changes based on whatever they are being observed and by the intention of that observer. So we know from science and we know from spiritual texts going back thousands of years that consciousness and the material world are deeply, intricately connected. And I'm not saying you need to become a physicist, but it's worth knowing that this is not just a motivational idea. There's something deeper going on between your conscious awareness and the material world around you. The point is simply this: you are not separate from what you are experiencing. You are actively participating in it through what you pay attention to. So the starting point for your influencing your material world is learning to place your awareness on what you actually want to experience. Because most of us, and if you click on this video, this probably resonates with you. Most of us have let our attention go completely unconscious. So here's what unconscious attention actually looks like in practice. You wake up in the morning and without deciding anything, your mind is already running. It's already on autopilot. Thinking about how much money you don't have, thinking about why your relationship is not improving, thinking about why you cannot get the job you want, and turning over the same problems you were turning over yesterday and the day before and the day before that too. Nobody decided to think about those things. The attention just went there on its own. Like water finding cracks in the floor. It just flows to wherever the familiar opening is. And here's the uncomfortable part. That automatic, unconscious attention is actively creating your experience, not the other way around. Most people look at their external circumstances and think their circumstances are causing how they feel, but it actually runs in the opposite direction. Your inner world, wherever your attention goes, what you're feeling, what you're focusing on, that is producing your outer experience. So people wonder why they keep getting the same results, why nothing seems to shift. And the answer is almost always an internal misalignment. It always starts with where the attention is going. And there is a reason the phrase is paying attention and not giving attention for free. Because nothing in this life is free. Every time you pay attention to something, that thing gains access to you and your mind. And it enters your mental space. It starts becoming part of your experience. You exist on a spiritual plane, mental plane, and a physical plane. When you pay attention to something, you are entertaining it on the mental plane first. And if you sustain that attention long enough, it starts to form on the physical plane. That means your outer world. Because your life force energy is the animating energy of your reality. Understanding that is understanding how powerful you actually are. And it means you can start using this magic wand of your awareness intentionally, deliberately, rather than letting it fire off in every random direction. Now, let me tell you something from my own experience, because I think it grounds all of this. I wanted to start making YouTube videos for a really long time. And I'm talking about something when I first started making videos, a really long time. And I kept waiting. And every time I sat down to actually do it, I would procrastinate. I would avoid doing things. I would find something else. I would convince myself it was fine to start later. One day I stopped and actually dug into it. I asked myself, why can't you just start? And the answer that came back was, that's not who you are. That's not you. And then I asked a different question. What is the actual difference between me and someone who is already doing this successfully? What is the actual difference between me and someone who is already doing this successfully? They are human beings with creative energy, working bodies, and capable minds. And so am I. What is the real difference? And the answer I got was simply this. They are casting their awareness differently than me. They are paying attention to completely different things. And because of that, they are using their time, their energy, and their resources in completely different ways. That realization changed everything because it meant the gap wasn't talent or luck or circumstances, it was just direction of focus. And I want you to get that same thing into your head right now. Anything you truly want is possible for you. You have the energy, you have the potential, you have the possibilities. That is not in question. The question, how you have been using those energetic possibilities. And that's exactly what we are going to walk through. Right now, before we go any further, I want you to start asking yourself, what have you been, what have you actually been focused on lately? What have you actually been focused on lately? What are you paying attention to? Take stock, note down. It's not to beat yourself up, just to get an honest picture of where you are at. Because you may not realize how much of your creative possibility you have been unconsciously handing away. You're losing it. All right, let's talk about why you have been misplacing your attention. Because it's not random. There are specific reasons this keeps happening. And there are two main culprits. And I want to write both of them up so we don't forget it. Number one is scrolling, right? Or you should say distraction, right? The first one is scrolling. And here is why this matters specifically. In order to create a new outcome in your reality, in your life, you need to place your awareness on it for a sustained period of time, long enough for it to actually take root. Remember the example of magnifying glass we've been talking about earlier on. Long enough for your frequency to start shifting towards it. And I see this constantly in my coaching. People say, I visualized it once. Oh, I paid attention to it for a few hours. I changed my reaction once. I focused on it for a day. Why hasn't my reality changed? Why nothing changed? And the answer is that one session is not enough. You need sustained and prolonged focus on what you want for it to actually gain traction, to keep things moving or to get going. Now here is what scrolling does to that ability. Think of your attention like a muscle you're supposed to be developing and strengthening over time. Scrolling through short form content, reels, is the equivalent of picking up a weight and putting it straight back down again, over and over, and you never actually do a rep. You just lift the weight and you put it down instantly. You never build any strength. When did you last read a book for a meaningful stretch of time, for maybe longer time? When did you last watch a full film without picking up your phone halfway through? Movies are 2.5 hours, 3 hours, and people now find that genuinely difficult because the muscle of sustained attention has been quietly weakening. And that muscle is the exact thing you need to exercise, the superpower that is your conscious awareness. Now, here is how you know your consciousness is one of the most valuable resources on the planet. These social media companies, and yes, I'm aware of the irony standing here on YouTube saying this, these companies are generating billions and billions of dollars from your conscious awareness. Without your attention landing on their platform, none of it really works. Content has actually now overtaken land as the most valuable asset in the world. So when you know that, ask yourself this: if your awareness is worth billions to corporations, what is it worth to your own life? And yet, most of us have been allowing corporations, algorithms, and our own programming to decide where that awareness goes. Rather than deciding it ourselves. Okay? Now, the second reason attention gets misplaced is your programming. And this one is a little deeper. When you wake up in the morning and open your eyes, there's about 1 second before you remember who you are, what you do, and what you focus on. Just 1 second. And then your awareness floods in and immediately runs down the neural pathways that have been shaped over your entire lifetime. You have a network for your finances, a network, a mental network I'm talking about, a mental network for your career, a network for your relationship. And those networks fire automatically because they are well rehearsed and deeply familiar. And here's an analogy I use with my clients that makes this really tangible. Imagine you are a gardener, and in your garden, over many years, you have worn specific tracks into the soil just from walking the same routes every day. So you go through that route every day. Those tracks are deep now because you keep moving on the same path every day. When it rains, water flows straight into them automatically, and that's just where it goes. Those tracks are your habitual thought patterns. Your awareness is the water. Your awareness is just naturally flows into those same grooves. Straight into the familiar track of I don't have enough money, or maybe I don't have the right career, or my relationship is difficult, or I'm not where I want to be. Now there is a new part of your garden you have never walked. A path towards the income level you want, the job that you want, the career that you want, the relationship quality you want, the health you want. But because you've never walked it, there is no track there. The ground is hard. The grass is tall. Your awareness doesn't flow there naturally because you never walk on that path before. And it takes actual conscious effort. Here's the key line. What you have been paying attention to for years and years is where your awareness goes every single morning before you've been deciding anything. Where you have been paying attention to for years. Think about that. Unless you become conscious and take deliberate control. And the way I work on this with people in my coaching and workshops is through meditation. Meditation. I highly recommend this. Why? Because it sounds fancy? No. And the reason meditation works so well for this specifically is this. Rather than trying to jump from middle of a familiar thought pattern and force yourself into a completely different one, which is like trying to teleport across the garden, meditation brings you all the way back to the starting point, back to the observer state, back to neutral. And from neutral, you can actually choose which direction to walk. It's a whole lot easier than trying to leap from one deep track to another. I'm just raising this too, okay? These 2 points. Because I want you to understand what happens when you go on autopilot? You will default to distractions that are easy to absorb. You will run down those familiar mental tracks that have been programmed in over years. Look at what you do on a regular basis the moment you wake up. Most people just open the phone without their conscious awareness. It's just an autopilot. Now, here's a really important point that I want you to hold on to. Infinite intelligence doesn't care whether you like something or dislike it. It only registers that you are focused on it. We all have that infinite intelligence. So a lot of people are intensely focused on things they absolutely do not want. And they believe that by paying closer attention to the problem, by turning it even more, by thinking about it harder, they're somehow going to solve it. But what actually happens is the opposite. Think of your focus like a spotlight on a stage. Whatever the spotlight lands on, the audience sees. Whatever the spotlight misses, the audience forgets its existence. Now, if you keep shining your spotlight on a problem, that problem takes up the entire stage. It gets bigger. You miss everything around it, and it gets more detailed. More aspects of it become visible. The audience, which is your mind, your emotions, your nervous system, becomes completely absorbed by it. And infinite intelligence watching that stage just says, okay, noted. It doesn't care. More of that coming right up. And this is why obsessively thinking about a problem rarely solves it. It usually creates more problems because you're continuously pouring creative energy into the thing you don't want. Something as simple as shifting your spotlight from the problem to a solution or a possible solution changes your entire experience. That's what I'm saying. Family part is not equal to desired part. And as a result, the answers that come to you change. The ideas that show up change. Your emotional state changes, and eventually your physical reality changes to match it. Let me give you a practical example. Let's say you're in a difficult time with your partner. You're focused on all the way they are falling short, all the things they do that frustrate you. You're mentally cataloging the evidence. And somehow, the more you catalog, the more you find, the worse things seems to get. And you get more annoyed. The partner gets more distant. And then something happens in the physical world that perfectly confirms everything you were already thinking. That is not coincidence. That's your spotlight at work. Now shift that spotlight. Start genuinely placing your attention on the things about this person, your partner, that are good. What they do well, the ways they show up, the qualities you actually appreciate. At first, it feels a little bit forced. But you keep placing the spotlight there, and slowly you start noticing more of those things. And then something shows up in the physical world that reflects that focus back to you instead. It's all a matter of where the spotlight is pointing. We're essentially conscious awareness moving through a field of infinite possible experiences. Whatever we sustain our attention on, those are the experiences that materialize into the physical form. And there's a very good book, which I have. I'd like to show you. It's this one. Okay. I highly recommend this book. Super cool. So in the book, Parallel Universes of Self, Frederick Dodson, the author, describes something similar. Essentially, that you are the conscious presence and you are casting your awareness at different possibilities and making them real through that sustained attention. Whatever you focus on, wherever you pay attention to, it grows, it becomes real. So, focus on problem is equal to more problem, and focus on solution, that means movement towards solution. Let me give you one more concrete example of this before we move into the keys, the steps. Let's say you're carrying debt, and every day you are looking at it, stressing about it, calculating, and worrying about when it's going to get better, wondering how you're going to fix your financial problem, and all of that energy going into the debt every single day. And none of it makes the debt smaller. In fact, it often feels like it gets worse. What would you actually create? Movement is taking your creative awareness and placing it on what you want to experience instead. That means growing your income, your bank account expanding, a clear, workable plan. You put your attention on those things because that's exactly what you want. And then ideas start coming that are aligned with those things. It may not come immediately, but you need to pay attention to those things that can get you out of the debt and make you more prosperous. Eventually, opportunities show up. You start acting differently because you are seeing things differently, and the situation shifts. And often, quite quickly. Why? Because you stop feeding the problem with the most powerful resource you have. So if your attention is scattered all over the place, unconscious, on autopilot, or being handed over to things that don't serve you, you're wasting this resource. And on top of that, you will not have the capacity to focus on what you want for long enough to actually create it. Now, here is where implementation gets genuinely difficult. And I want to be honest about this because a lot of people watch videos, learn things, feel inspired, and then wonder why nothing changes. The hard part is not understanding this concept. No, it is not hard. The hard part is doing it moment to moment in your actual life. Think of it like learning to ride a bike by reading about it. You can read every manual ever written on cycling. You can understand the physics and the balance mechanics, the techniques. But until you actually get on the bike and wobble around and fall off a few times, none of that knowledge is doing anything for you. Shifting your attention in real time is the same. Many people just keep watching those kind of videos, and there are thousands of videos just like this. You can learn a lot of things, but very few videos will show you exactly how to implement that. Because when you're in the middle of a spiral, when your emotions are involved, when your body is already tense, your mind is already running the familiar track, the familiar thoughts. Taking your awareness off and then placing it on something you prefer is genuinely one of the hardest things to do. Because by the time your attention has been on something long enough, your emotions get involved. Your thoughts start multiplying around it, and you start acting from it. And then your attention and your emotions are feeding each other in a loop. And the moment you can actually interrupt that loop and place your awareness on somewhere else, that is a skill, a real skill, not just a concept. Skill is something that you can actually do, not just an idea, and a skill that you develop through practice. And no amount of watching videos or reading books replaces the actual doing of it. And I want to walk you through three things you can actually work with, not a 17-step process, just three. Let's dive into it. The first one is what I call catch and redirect. It sounds simple, but it's genuinely one of the harder things to do consistently. Here is what it means in practice. In any given moment, you are either consciously choosing where your attention goes, or your attention is just wandering off, going everywhere on its own. And when it wanders, it almost always goes somewhere unhelpful. So, practice here is this: the moment you notice you're obsessively focused on something you don't want, for example, a worry, a grievance, a grudge, a problem you're running over like a puzzle you cannot solve, you just notice it, acknowledge it. Do not resist it. Do not resist any worry, any grievance, any problem. Just notice it. You don't criticize yourself for it. You don't start an internal lecture. You just go, there is that thing again. And then you consciously move your attention to what you want to do instead. Consciously move your attention to what you want to do instead. For example, this is something that I don't want. Okay, it's there, right? But I can easily shift my attention to this pen and here. So consciously move your attention to what you want to do instead. Now your mind will absolutely try to pull back, like a compass needle pulling towards magnetic north. It wants to return to the familiar. That is expected, but just redirect again and again if needed until you actually pay attention to things that you really want. But here is what I have seen happen with people I coach. When they actually do this consistently, even for a few days, the thing they were obsessing over start to shrink. It start to lose its intensity. So the worry, the problem, the grievance, it loses its intensity. Not because the problem magically disappeared, but because they stop feeding it with their most powerful resource. That's attention. And here's the part that surprises most people. When you actually withdraw your attention from something you don't prefer, it tends to start resolving on its own. Try out. You were kind of afraid that if you stop focusing on it, it would explode or spiral out of control. But what actually happens is the opposite. It starts to dissolve out of your experience. It starts to sort itself out. You will see this even in some small social situations. If you have an anxious anticipation or maybe worry about seeing someone and you shift that focus before the interaction, the whole interaction plays out differently. The same person, but a completely different experience. Because you change the frequency you were on before you walked in. And I invite you to test this because this is genuinely one of those things you have to experience to believe. No amount of my explanation will convince you the way 1 week of actually practicing it will. So do it for a week. Try it this week. Pick one thing you have been over focusing on that is not serving you. And every time you catch yourself there, redirect and see what happens. The second point is sustain your focus. Sustain your focus. So the second key is about sustaining your focus, and this is where a lot of people get stuck. Here's a picture for this. Imagine you're trying to carve a channel through rock using only water, right? So you want to carve a channel through rock using water. If you pour a small amount of water in one direction and then switch directions immediately, you get nowhere. The rock doesn't care. Nothing happens. If you keep flowing water consistently in the same direction, over time, a groove starts to form, then a channel. Then the water flows through the channel easily and naturally because it's been worn in. It creates the way. Your new focus works exactly the same way. If you place your attention on what you want for a moment and then forget about it, nothing much happens. The idea sparks briefly and then disappears. But if you return to it, sustain it, feed it with your time and energy over a consistent period, it starts to carve a real channel in your awareness. It starts to become part of how you naturally see yourself and the world. Let's say you have been focused on how unhappy you are in your work. That's the old channel, deeply worn. The direction you want to go is actually thriving in your work, feeling energized and purposeful. That is a new direction. That's exactly what you want to do. And at first, it's just hard ground with no groove. You have to constantly pour your attention that way every day. And it feels effortful. But you keep going. One of the ways to do it is to do the meditation, as I shared earlier on. But the more you read about it, the more you think about it, the more you talk about it from the angle of possibility rather than complaint, the deeper the new channel gets. And eventually, your awareness starts flowing naturally that way because you have created a real groove, a real new pathway. And that is new you. This is exactly what happened when I was building the habit of creating content. Videos like this. At first, I would read a little bit about something and then make a video quickly. And the video would be flat. There wasn't much depth to it because I had not let enough energy accumulate it in that direction. But when I started genuinely spending more time immersed in what I wanted to talk about, reading more, thinking more deeply about it, giving it actual sustained attention, everything changed. The ideas got richer, the videos got better, not overnight, but the channel got deeper. You got to sustain your focus on who you are becoming for long enough that it starts to override the old pattern. The new pattern seems natural to you. Don't just deep in occasionally. Depth of focus matters. Don't just deep in and out of what you want. Stay with it. And here's the last concept I want to talk about. Vertical versus horizontal. Okay? I use a different color now. Versus horizontal. So this is horizontal, this is vertical. Oh. The third key is one find I really useful is to explain visually. Right? So you can do same thing as me. Right? Draw a horizontal line on the board and draw the vertical line. And I find it really useful to show the difference between horizontal and vertical attention. Most of us are living almost entirely in a horizontal mode. And here is what it looks like. You woke up, or you wake up next morning, immediately you are reacting to everything around you. Somebody says something, you react. A news headline catches your eye, and you react. You see something in the WhatsApp, and you react. A social media post annoys you, and you react. Someone is in a mood, and now you're in a mood. It's like being a compass that responds to every passing magnet. You are not pointing anywhere meaningful. You're just swinging left and right based on whatever comes near you. That's horizontal. You're moving sideways. You're staying at the same level. The surface of everything is directing you. And then on the horizontal, we also have a consumption, just absorbing content, stimulation, other people's energy, watching all those endless reels and shorts and videos without any real internalization. In, with nothing being processed or integrated. Constant scrolling. Vertical attention is something completely different. Vertical is when you take your attention off the surface or everything around you and you turn it inward. And the moment you do that, something genuinely shifts. You step out of the reactive loop, you disconnect from the autopilot ego patterns, and you reconnect to the deeper awareness that is actually you. Going inward means becoming introspective, sitting with a question, processing something instead of just reacting to it, observing what's happening inside you rather than just being swept along by it, contemplating, reflecting, and reconnecting to the energy within you rather than leaking it all outward. The vertical use of attention is where actually growth happens. This is where your mental state can genuinely rise, where your identity can shift, where your perception can expand, because you are finally looking at the source rather than just looking at a symptom. And practically, this is where you start to notice things. Any blocks running in the background, just zone out, pay attention to what's going on. Any misperceptions shaping how you see things, anything internally that needs to shift, just pay attention to it. Take control of it. Because your external reality is simply a reflection of your internal one. You cannot change the reflection without changing what's creating it. And to change what's creating it, you have to be willing to look inward. This is why meditation is one of the first things I introduce in my coaching and workshops. Not because it's really trendy and cool. Everyone is doing it. It's a new buzzword. But because it's genuinely the most practical way to come out of autopilot. When you sit quietly and observe your own thinking, you are no longer inside the thought. You are watching your thought. You're watching it. And the moment you can watch a thought, you can no longer control by it. Just watch it. And when you meditate, you come all the way out of the familiar pattern, out of the reactive loop, and back to the observer state. Remember, I talked about it earlier. And from observer state, you can actually decide where to go next. And that's a whole lot easier than trying to jump from one deep habitual pattern straight into a different one. So, before we go into the action steps, I want you to actually pause here for a moment. Not to just watch this video and move on, but to actually integrate something. I want you to ask yourself right now, what have you been focused on lately? What thoughts have been running on repeat? What are you worrying about that you cannot even control? What situations have been receiving your life force energy without giving anything back? What media, what people, what habits have been absorbing the best of your awareness? What have you been paying attention to that is no longer serving you? Your attention is the gate through which information enters your mind. And when something gets through that gate into your subconscious, it starts shaping your entire perception of reality. It becomes the lens you see everything through. So you want to start guarding that gate, not from a place of fear, but from a place of understanding how genuinely valuable what's on the other side of it actually is. Remember, your attention is the most valuable resource. Not your time, not your money, not your connection, not your network, your attention. Because your attention is what directs all of those other things. And right now, a lot of that attention is probably being handed over to things that don't serve you. Social media, habitual worry, other people's problems, things you cannot even control. The content on internet that takes your energy but gives nothing useful back. Not that makes you a bad person. It just means you are human and you have been running on autopilot, like most people do. The good news is you can change the setting. So here is what I would like you to actually do this week. And I mean actually do. Not just nod along and move on to the next video. Okay? So what you need to do, let me explain. Step one is take stock. Ask yourself honestly, what have I been paying attention to lately? Not to shame yourself, just to get honest. What thoughts have been running on repeat? What worries have been taking up space? What content, what people, what habits have been receiving the best of your energy? Write it down. Spare yourself 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You have been consuming a lot of videos, shorts, and reels for hours. What about sparing time for yourself? Write it down. Even just a short list. Because you cannot change what you haven't clearly named. Step two, look at that list and circle things that are genuinely not serving you. Pay attention to it. The stuff that drains you, distracts you, and keeps you stuck in a place you don't want to be. And step three, pick a number of days. Like 3 days, I would say. 3 days, not more than that. 3 days is a good starting point and commit to a detox from the specific things. If you're scrolling social media, delete the apps for 3 days. If it's a particular habit or just thinking on a problem, use the catch and redirect practice we talked earlier on. Every time you notice it, just catch and redirect it. Catch and redirect. If it's certain conversations or people that consistently drain your energy, put some distance there. And here's the important addition. For everything you remove, decide what you're going to replace it with. If you're removing TV time in the evening, replace it with reading something that feeds the direction you actually want to go. If you're removing a complaint habit, replace it with writing down one thing that's going well. It's called gratitude practice. This swap is really helpful. You need to swap it. You cannot completely eliminate it. Do something else that is useful to you. And step four, at the end of these 3 days, just notice how you feel. Not in a grand, dramatic way. Just check in. Most people find that within a very short time, they feel calmer, clearer, and more like themselves. They feel rejuvenated because they stopped leaking their energy and started keeping it. Notice your energy. Notice your clarity. Notice how you feel compared to where you started. Most people find that even in that short period of time, they feel more like themselves, more grounded, and more alive because they have stopped leaking their most valuable resource and started keeping it. You can make this longer than 3 days, your choice. Some people I work with commit to 40 days and their whole reality shifts, the whole life changes. Let's start with 3 days. Just see what opens up. You are not lacking. You are not broken. You are not being given less than anyone else. You have just been spending your most powerful currency at a place that wasn't giving you anything back. Your attention is the wand. Now you know how it works. Take it back. Use it deliberately. And let me know in the comments what you're going to be giving up for the next 3 days. And what are you going to replace it with? Put in the comment, reach out to me. Tell me what you are hoping to create on the other side of it. I genuinely want to read those. And I encourage you to start using these lessons and techniques in your daily life. It does take some discipline to practice this all by yourself. If there are moments when you feel unsure, not disciplined enough, tired, or stuck, and you can simply contact me, your coach, who will guide you through the various processes and teach you additional techniques and tools that relate to you specifically. You may have specific health, career, relationship, money, or spiritual issues you would like to address. And these are best handled in personal one on one coaching. You can book your personal coaching. These sessions can be done online, by email, or in person. You should check out to book personal coaching with me. Go to northstarangel.com/coaching. If you benefit from this video, recording, or a lecture, please recommend it to someone who may find it helpful. I would enjoy hearing your feedback on this video and your experience. Share it far and wide. This is Mayur Bardolia, a success coach from North Star Angel Coaching and Spiritual Solutions. If you wish to book a coaching session and workshop or invite me as a speaker, reach out to me at contact@northstarangel.com. I wish you well. May you find peace and prosperity. Have a nice day.